back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a folded hatchet. Now, what a folded hatchet is instead of it being one solid block like my hammer here, where you punch a hole through the piece of steel, instead it's actually one long flat piece bent around something roundish like this, and then welded together, forge welded together up here. Now for this particular one, I put an extra piece to have a little, it's called a skeg down here at the bottom, kind of like a beard, for a bearded axe, but on a smaller scale. But so yeah, I'll be showing you guys how I make that out of a lawnmower blade piece. So I'm starting off by flattening out this lawnmower blade section here. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut off this piece here, the part that was the actual blade section of the lawnmower blade, because that'll interfere with the forge weld if I don't cut it off. So it's going to be a bit thinner. I'm going to do that now, and then I'll show you guys what I have material-wise. I'm also going to cut off the piece right about here, and then leave this piece for that extra bit that I showed you for the skeg. And the skeg part, it's called a bit. So the bit for the piece to make the bit to put in between the folds of the actual hatchet body itself. I'm going to work on this skeg bit first, and I'll show you what I've done with that. So as you can see, what I've done is draw out this bit that's going to go in between the two sides of the actual body of the hatchet. So now what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start making this edge of the lawnmower piece uniform, kind of making it the shape I want. I might make a dip in the middle just because of aesthetic reasons, but I'm not quite. So as you can see, I decided to do exactly the opposite of what I said that I might do, but that's okay. Again, what I said I was going to do was make this raised section here actually dip downwards for aesthetic purposes, but I accidentally started this on one side and I thought it looked pretty good, so I decided to just go along with it the whole way. I'm going to touch mark the center of this piece before bending it around, because doing that after I make the hatchet is going to be a lot harder. And then I will show you guys how I'm actually going to forge weld it together and all that stuff. With that accomplished, I'm going to tell you guys my plan for what I have to do next. So I have to remember that this is the outside and that this is the inside. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend it over the horn over here so that they are somewhat close together on the end. Then I'm going to grind the inside surfaces with an angle grinder, and then I'm going to have to grind the outer surfaces of the bit as well, with the angle grinder as well. And then I'm going to slot them all together, and I'm actually going to use my stick welder to weld all of the surfaces I can reach shut so that no oxygen gets in there. Then I'll heat it up and flex it, and I'll weld it. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that I didn't actually measure this raised part, and so it's a little bit asymmetrical. It's a little hard to see on the camera. Maybe if I show it from the opposite direction, you'll be able to see it. Yeah, there we go. This side is just a little bit longer than this side, so I'm going to grind that down with my grinder as well when I go to grind it. And then I'm also going to have to cut these tops off so that they're flat, because they aren't perfectly flat anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I've got the pieces prepared for welding. I need to close this up a little bit more. That might prove a little problematic because it may get these sections hot again. I'm going to try just heating up this bottom of the curve here to close it around this. And then once I have it closed around that, I'm going to weld these two seams right here and the same on the other side right there. So I'm going to close it, I'm going to weld right here a bead, and on the other side as well. I'll show you guys what I have when I'm done with that. So I have the bit welded into the body of the hatchet. I've got a little bit of borax in there as a flux. I'm going to heat it up and then I'll forge weld it. Go for the first welding heat. Okay. That welded that side, I think. This side didn't get quite hot enough, so I'll flip it over when I put it back in. I'm going to flux it up again and I'll put it back in. In for the last welding heat here. Alright, I'm fairly sure that I did a nice good weld the whole way up. Now there are some further steps I need to take before this is finished. I have to bevel the actual edge, and then I have to decide how much of this hole here do I need to actually make the eye hole for the handle. I'm going to be using my swage tool that you've seen me use for knife tang transitions to section off the right amount of material. At which point I'll probably then run a weld bead along the top and the bottom just to make sure that everything looks right and just so it's that much more solid. But first I'm going to do the beveling. so I have finished the rough forging of the blade here. I'm going to go do a good deal of cleanup with the angle grinder before I move on to the fine tuning, just because I want it to look a little bit nicer than it is, and then I'll show you guys what I've got when I've finished that process. So as you can see, I've done quite a bit of cleanup on the hatchet head here. I got these centered so that they are even on each side. I've cleaned up the top here, and I've kind of chopped a lot of the mass off of this skeg here, because this is supposed to be a lighter hatchet. It's not supposed to be a heavy axe. The purpose of the skeg is actually, it's a Viking type of war axe in origin, and basically what it's for is if you're fighting an opponent with a shield, you would take the skeg and you would kind of grip onto their shield like this and pull their shield down so that you can then attack your exposed enemy much easier. But all that means for this project is that it makes the axe a lot lighter than it would be. So I'm going to go ahead and true this up a little bit more. It needs some more work. And then I'm going to be isolating material for the eye hole, and I'll be almost finished with the project. Alright, with that last little bit of refinement done, I'm going to get my swage out, and I'm going to section off the spot needed for the handle, for the eye hole, and then I'm going to drift it, I'll weld it, and then I'll drift it, and that'll be it for the forging. So I've got everything ready for the weld. It looks like the bottom, near the bottom of the skeg, got a little too hot and melted a little. It's not a crippling mess up though, so I'm not going to make a hook out of this. I am, however, going to have to make this skeg not square. I was going to try and make it square because traditionally they're kind of like a rounded square shape instead of pointed, but with this one I'll have to make a point on it. I'm going to get to grinding. So a few days ago I made this drift to make the other hatchet that I showed you guys at the beginning of the video. I'm going to use it to make the eye of the hatchet as well for this one. This is actually too big to fit in my hardy hole, so I have to use it over the side of the anvil. That's not very much of an issue though. So yeah, I'm heating up the hatchet right now, and then I'll be... So I'm going to do a similar process to when I make a hammer, using this drift here. Hammering the cheeks, and then flipping it over and doing the same on the other side. Alright, so I've got the eye shaped pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and quench the blade of this. I'm actually going to quench it in water because it's not that leaf spring material. It's closer to a medium carbon steel. I wouldn't say exactly medium carbon, it's more on the high carbon side. But I've quenched this material before in water and it hasn't cracked. So I'm going to go ahead and quench it in there, and then I will be able to temper it, do the final hardening, or the final grinding, and then I'll clean it up on the Scotch-Brite wheel and show you guys what I have. Alright, as you can see, I've got the profile done on the hatchet here. I've got it all forged out, so I'm going to make the handle now. I'm going to use a piece of maple that I got from my backyard. It's just a small tree. I'm going to cut a piece off of it and refine it down with my table saw. And then I'm basically going to do the exact same thing I did with this hammer, the way that I put the handle on. The eye's a bit bigger, so it's going to be a thicker handle for more strength. But I will show you guys what I have when I'm done with the finished axe. So as you can see, this hatchet ended up turning out really well. I was able to get a good straight handle for it, and I really like the way it turned out. I really like the little notch there, right here. So it's something I'll be doing with future hatchets, I think. The top of this one looks a lot nicer than my first one. My first one, I accidentally underestimated the amount of wood that I would need to fit in the top here, and so I had to put several metal wedges in, and it didn't come out as nice, but this one worked really well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a comment and subscribe, and share it with anybody you think would be interested. It really does help me out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.